Top 10 Most Common Financial Mistakes. Here we'll take a look at some of the most common financial mistakes that often lead people to major economic hardship. Even if you're already facing financial difficulties, steering clear of these mistakes could be the key to survival. 1. Excessive and frivolous spending. Great fortunes are often lost $1 at a time. It may not seem like a big deal when you pick up that double mocha cappuccino or have dinner out or order that pay per view movie, but every little item adds up. Just $25 per week spent on dining out costs you $1,300 per year, which could go toward an extra credit card or auto payment or several extra payments. If you're enduring financial hardship, avoiding this mistake really matters. After all, if you're only a few dollars away from foreclosure or bankruptcy, every dollar will count more than ever. 2. Never-ending payments. Ask yourself if you really need items that keep you paying every month, year after year. Things like cable television, music services, or high-end gym memberships can force you to pay unceasingly but leave you owning nothing. When money is tight or you just want to save more, creating a leaner lifestyle can go a long way to fattening your savings and cushioning yourself from financial hardship. 3. Living on borrowed money. Using credit cards to buy essentials has become somewhat commonplace. But even if an ever-increasing number of consumers are willing to pay double-digit interest rates on gasoline, groceries, and a host of other items that are gone long before the bill is paid in full, it's not wise financial advice to do so. Credit card interest rates make the price of the charged items a great deal more expensive. In some cases, using credit can also mean you'll spend more than you earn. 4. Buying a new car. Millions of new cars are sold each year, although few buyers can afford to pay for them in cash. However, the inability to pay cash for a new car can also mean an inability to afford the car. After all, being able to afford the payment is not the same as being able to afford the car. Furthermore, by borrowing money to buy a car, the consumer pays interest on a depreciating asset, which amplifies the difference between the value of the car and the price paid for it. Worse yet, many people trade in their cars every 2 or 3 years and lose money on every trade. Sometimes a person has no choice but to take out a loan to buy a car. But how many consumers really need a large SUV? Such vehicles are expensive to buy, insure, and fuel. Unless you tow a boat or trailer or need an SUV to earn a living, it can be disadvantageous to purchase one. If you need to buy a car and/or borrow money to do so, consider buying one that uses less gas and costs less to insure and maintain. Cars are expensive, and if you're buying more of a car than you need, you might be burning through money that could have been saved or used to pay off debt. 5. Spending too much on your house. When it comes to buying a house, bigger is not necessarily better. Unless you have a large family, choosing a 6,000 square foot home will only mean more expensive taxes, maintenance, and utilities. Do you really want to put such a significant long-term dent in your monthly budget? 6. Using home equity like a piggy bank. Refinancing and taking cash out of your home means giving away ownership to someone else. In some cases, refinancing might make sense if you can lower your rate or if you can refinance and pay off higher interest debt. However, the other alternative is to open a home equity line of credit. HELOC, this allows you to effectively use the equity in your home like a credit card. This could mean paying unnecessary interest for the sake of using your home equity line of credit. 7. Living paycheck to paycheck. In June 2021, the U.S. household personal savings rate was 9.4. 2. Many households may live paycheck to paycheck, and an unforeseen problem can easily become a disaster if you are not prepared. The cumulative result of overspending puts people into a precarious position, one in which they need every dime they earn, and one missed paycheck would be disastrous. This is not the position you want to find yourself in when an economic recession hits. If this happens, you'll have very few options. Many financial planners will tell you to keep 3 months' worth of expenses in an account where you can access it quickly. Loss of employment or changes in the economy could drain your savings and place you in a cycle of debt paying for debt. A 3-month buffer could be the difference between keeping or losing your house. 8. Not investing in retirement. If you do not get your money working for you in the markets or through other income producing investments, you may never be able to stop working. Making monthly contributions to designated retirement accounts is essential for a comfortable retirement. Take advantage of tax-deferred retirement accounts and your employer. Sponsored plan. Understand the time your investments will have to grow and how much risk you can tolerate. Consult a qualified financial advisor to match this with your goals if possible. 9. Paying off debt with savings. You may be thinking that if your debt is costing 19 and your retirement account is making 7s, swapping the retirement for the debt means you will be pocketing the difference. But it's not that simple. In addition to losing the power of compounding, it's very hard to pay back those retirement funds, and you could be hit with hefty fees. With the right mindset, borrowing from your retirement account can be a viable option. But even the most disciplined planners have a tough time placing money aside to rebuild these accounts. When the debt gets paid off, the urgency to pay it back usually goes away. It will be very tempting to continue spending at the same pace, which means you could go back into debt again. If you're going to pay off debt with savings, you have to live like you still have a debt to pay to your retirement fund. 10. Not having a plan. Your financial future depends on what is going on right now. People spend countless hours watching TV or scrolling through their social media feeds, but setting aside 2 hours a week for their finances is out of the question. You need to know where you are going. Make spending some time planning your finances a priority. The bottom line, to steer yourself away from the dangers of overspending, start by monitoring the little expenses that add up quickly, then move on to monitoring the big expenses. Think carefully before adding new debts to your list of payments, and keep in mind that being able to make a payment isn't the same as being able to afford the purchase. Finally, make saving some of what you earn a monthly priority, along with spending time developing a sound financial plan. Top 5 reasons why people go bankrupt. Job loss, medical bills, and mortgage debt are among the reasons people go bankrupt. Generally, more than one factor will contribute to a situation that causes someone to file for bankruptcy. Irresponsible financial behavior such as taking on too much debt is often a factor, but other circumstances can also lead to a situation where someone chooses to file for bankruptcy. Key takeaways. A combination of financial setbacks can drive someone to file for bankruptcy. Factors that contribute to financial struggles can be either poor decisions or other circumstances that cannot be controlled. Job loss, medical expenses, and escalating mortgage payments are among the common reasons people file for bankruptcy. Overspending can also contribute to a situation that forces someone to file for bankruptcy. 5 major reasons for bankruptcy. There are a number of studies of why people file for bankruptcy, some due to poor financial choices and others due to circumstances beyond their control. Common reasons that people file for bankruptcy include loss of income, high medical expenses, an unaffordable mortgage, spending beyond their means, or lending money to loved ones. Often, a bankruptcy is a result of several of these factors combined. 1. Loss of income. As many Americans live paycheck to paycheck, losing a job and a source of regular income can cause significant financial strain. A 2019 Charles Schwab survey found that 59% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 1. Losing your job can also mean losing your health insurance, making you especially vulnerable to big medical bills unless you can find other insurance in the meantime. 2. Medical expenses. Medical expenses are another major factor contributing to bankruptcy. Medical problems can also lead to job loss in some cases. Or, if you've lost your job and your insurance, and then suffer medical problems, you could also face financial strain. There are several programs intended to help people who lose their jobs keep their health insurance. COBRA is a federal law that allows many laid-off workers to stay on their ex-employer's insurance plan for a period of time. However, COBRA requires the employee to pay both their share and their employer's former share of the insurance cost, plus an administrative fee, making it unaffordable for many people, especially when they're out of work. 3. Unaffordable mortgage foreclosure. Home mortgages are typically the largest portion of household debt in the United States, far surpassing credit cards, car loans, student debt, and all other categories. At the end of 2019, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, housing-related debt, which includes both mortgages and home equity lines of credit, accounted for roughly 70% of household debt in the U.S. Lenders can sometimes approve a buyer for a larger loan than they can afford to pay. People who accept these loans are at risk of losing their home to foreclosure if they don't make the payments. They may lose their job or facing some other financial setback. Some mortgages have adjustable rates, which means the homeowner's monthly payments can rise if interest rates rise. If a borrower suddenly faces a higher mortgage payment that they cannot afford to pay, they may be forced to file for bankruptcy. 4. Overspending. Overspending or living beyond your means can quickly result in unmanageable debt. If a borrower maxes out their credit cards buying unnecessary items and then cannot afford to make the minimum monthly payments, they can see their debt quickly snowball with interest costs. To minimize the risk of overspending, create a budget that ensures income is greater than expenses. You can also work towards saving an emergency fund of several months' worth of expenses. This can help you cover an unexpected expense without having to go into debt. 5. Providing financial assistance. Sometimes the need to provide assistance to relatives or others can be a factor in contributing to a situation that leads someone to file for bankruptcy. Whether they are providing support to adult children or providing support to aging parents, people may find it difficult to decline financial assistance to a family member in need. Other reasons for bankruptcy. Of course, there are many other reasons people file for bankruptcy. For example, some may have burdensome student loan debts. Although student loan debt is difficult to discharge in bankruptcy, many people might file for bankruptcy to eradicate other debt so they can afford their other student loan payments. Other people may face financial strain as a result of divorce or separation, which can be costly with legal fees. Does bankruptcy clear all debt? Bankruptcy often clears your debt so you can start fresh with your finances, but it does not necessarily clear all debt. Debt that may not be cleared in bankruptcy includes alimony, child support, taxes, fines, and student loans. What is the downside of bankruptcy? Bankruptcy has the advantage of helping you start fresh with your finances, but a bankruptcy will have a negative impact on your credit score. A bankruptcy can stay on your credit history for up to 10 years. 6. Can you file for bankruptcy while getting a divorce? You can file for bankruptcy anytime, but during a divorce, only one court process will occur at a time. Consider whether you want to file for a bankruptcy before or after a divorce. 7. The bottom line. Filing for bankruptcy can provide relief to people who are strained beyond their means with their debt. A number of factors can contribute to a situation where you may have to file for bankruptcy. To help avoid bankruptcy, you can take steps to stay in good financial health, such as only taking on an amount of debt you can afford to repay and essentially spending below your means. Prevent bankruptcy with these tips. Bankruptcy has serious consequences, so it's best to avoid it if possible. Filing for bankruptcy is often viewed as a quick and easy way to get out of debt. While it will make many debts go away, USC, residents may find that what they get in return may be more than they bargained for. Thanks to legal changes enacted in 2005 by the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act, BAPAP. To escape these hassles, do everything you can to avoid filing for bankruptcy. This article will show you how. Consequences of declaring bankruptcy. In certain situations, the BAPAP requires those filing for bankruptcy to 1. Attend mandatory credit counseling. Make ongoing payments to creditors. Attend mandatory financial management education. What's more, filing for bankruptcy doesn't necessarily exempt you from lawsuits, eviction, or a suspension of your driver's license if you have unpaid fines. Filers also end up with a poor credit rating, which can result in the inability to borrow money at standard rates for up to 10 years. This may lead to greater debt because the only loans you can get come with a high interest rate. 23. Preventing medical bankruptcy. How to avoid filing for bankruptcy. While unexpected medical bills or sudden unemployment can force almost anyone into an uncomfortable financial situation, people facing bankruptcy may also have been in this situation as a direct result of poor spending and saving habits. In a society where living beyond your means is all too prevalent, a brush with bankruptcy can be a sharp reminder of the need for a lifestyle change. Here are some steps that can help no matter why your finances have become so precarious. Make a budget and cut spending. The first stage of change is to figure out how much money you spend each month. Putting together a budget is the quickest and easiest way to get a handle on your spending habits. The next step is to find ways to reduce your spending. Lock your credit cards in a drawer or give them to a trusted friend for safekeeping, and pay in cash, whether the actual green or through a debit card or smartphone linked to a cash account, for all purchases. It's better not to cancel your cards because you'll reduce your credit limit and instantly increase your credit utilization ratio, which is bad for your credit rating. If you can't afford to sustain your lifestyle on an all-cash existence, then downsize it. This includes both the big and small stuff because every penny counts. The following are some big-ticket ways to downsize. Move to a smaller house. Drive an older, less expensive car. Sell your boat, motorcycle, or recreational vehicle. Skip going on vacation. At the small end of the spectrum, you need to eliminate all spending beyond the absolute basics of food, clothing, shelter, and transportation to and from work. That includes all the little luxuries we pretend are necessities, such as cable television, dining out, high-speed internet, alcohol, cigarettes, gym memberships, magazine subscriptions. Gift giving at the holidays can be eliminated too. Spend time with the ones you love, not money on them. These steps may not be much fun, but all that spending on fun is what put you in this situation in the first place. If this sounds like you, you're not alone. Maximize income. Once you've minimized your overhead, you may still not earn enough money to pay for your living expenses in cash. If that's the case, it's time to maximize your revenue. The most obvious way to do this is to get a job. If you already have a job, take a second job. If you have a second job, take a third job. The same applies to your spouse or significant other. This may sound draconian, but if you are at the point of contemplating bankruptcy, you need to act forcefully. In bad economic times, look for side gigs, such as those available through TaskRabbit and similar websites. Your efforts to earn more money can also involve selling some of the stuff you bought during your free spending days. And how about taking in a roommate? 2 paychecks are better than 1 when it comes to covering your expenses. If you qualify, investigate government help for food assistance and medical care, mortgage forbearance, and other aid, especially if your unemployment insurance is running out. Should any of this keep you out of bankruptcy while you get back on your feet, it's worth doing it. Investigate consolidating or settling debts. Debt consolidation, in which high-interest debts are paid off with one lower-interest loan, is often referenced as a tool to avoid bankruptcy. If you can qualify for such a loan, it can be a good strategy, but you need the fortitude to avoid backsliding. When some people no longer feel pressured by their inability to pay their debts, they go on a spending spree. Debt consolidation should be a long-term solution, not a temporary fix. Debt settlement is also a possibility. In this case, instead of reducing the number of your creditors, the debt relief company reduces the amount of your debt through negotiation with those creditors. The idea is that if you agree to pay a portion of each debt off now, they will forgive the rest of it on the theory that otherwise they may never get anything. These two strategies have their strengths and weaknesses, so consider them carefully before choosing one. And again, no returning to bad habits. Consider using the right kind of professional help. When you are in trouble, looking to experts for a helping hand can be a good idea. That said, it is also possible to fall prey to unscrupulous operators. The basic sales pitch of "pay me a fee to help you escape your debts" does seem a bit counterintuitive, and those desperate for a quick fix can be victimized by credit counseling firms. Before you take this route, consider that the simplest, and perhaps most practical, counseling that you can get is the suggestion to close your wallet and curb your spending. If you feel that more specific advice is still needed, research your choices thoroughly. A permanent change. You can find yourself close to bankruptcy for many reasons, not all of which are your fault, as Americans living through the pandemic have discovered. Use your period of recovery to figure out which steps you can take to protect yourself in the future. One key step: building up an emergency fund or a larger fund than you previously had to gain more security in the future. Look hard at any behaviors that made you more susceptible to financial disaster than you could have been and watch them carefully. Some people not only go through bankruptcy, but go on to become serial bankruptcy filers who use recovery from bankruptcy as an excuse to resume excess spending. If you are serious about getting your finances on the right track, you need to get out of debt and stay out of debt. For former overspenders willing to start exercising a lot of self-control, it is possible to avoid bankruptcy and all the additional problems that come with it. Life after bankruptcy. It is possible to make a fresh start with discipline and focus. What does life after bankruptcy look like? When you're considering this move, it's important to look ahead before you decide your next step. People can find themselves at a point where there is no chance they will be able to pay off the debts they have accumulated. For example, consider someone who has depleted all their savings and maxed out all of their credit cards due to medical problems and losing their job. Even with unemployment or a temp job, they might find that they can no longer make even the minimum monthly payments on their cards or keep up with their rent and car loan. That's when a helpful option is talking to a bankruptcy attorney. Chapter 7 could turn out to be the logical next move. Unfortunately, this situation is all too common. In fact, Mark Twain, Walt Disney, Elton John, and Henry Ford all filed for bankruptcy at some point in their lives. If you think bankruptcy could be looming for you as well, read on to discover what you can expect and what to watch out for after filing for personal bankruptcy. Key takeaways. After filing for bankruptcy, your first step would be to inform your creditors of your bankruptcy and liquidate your non-exempt assets. It may take up to 10 years to get a loan for a big-ticket purchase in case of a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and up to 7 years for Chapter 13 bankruptcy. There are certain steps you can take to regain control after bankruptcy, including maintaining your job, paying bills on time, keeping a positive balance, and rebuilding your credit. You've filed. Now what? For individuals who have declared bankruptcy, the recovery process is long and difficult. The first step comes when you and your court-appointed bankruptcy trustee meet with your creditors to inform them of the bankruptcy, at which time any non-exempt assets that you have must be liquidated. You will be allowed to keep your furniture, car, and personal belongings up to a certain value, but any non-exempt liquid assets, such as cash or certificates of deposit CDs, must be turned over to your trustee. However, liquidating your assets is only the first of many issues that must be dealt with as the consequences of your bankruptcy unfold. Getting a loan of any kind will be extremely difficult for the next couple of years. It may be possible to regain a better credit score and qualify for some types of loans after only a year, but the lenders that will take you on will probably be from finance companies that charge exorbitant rates of interest. In some cases, it may not be possible to get credit at all for major purchases, such as a car or home. A Chapter 7 bankruptcy will remain on your credit report for 10 years. If you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy instead, the bankruptcy should disappear from your credit report after only 7 years. With Chapter 7, your trustee uses the liquidated assets to pay off as much of your debt as possible, after which the rest is discharged. 1. Chapter 13 requires that you pay back all of your debt within 3 to 5 years according to a set payment plan that must be approved by the court. If you are in a position to put forward a credible plan, Chapter 13 is often preferable because it allows you to save your home from foreclosure. 2. Ultimately, there are 6 types of bankruptcy filings. To choose the one that best suits your financial position, it is advisable to consult with a lawyer. Check with a lawyer to ensure that you file the type of bankruptcy that best suits your financial position. How to recover after filing for bankruptcy. Here are a few steps that you can take to help regain control of your situation. Maintain a job and a home. It is vitally important that you get and keep a job as soon as possible if you don't have one already. Finding a good place to live ranks a close second if this is an issue. Stable residential and employment histories are necessary because they show creditors that you are reliable. A growing number of landlords are checking credit references as a means of screening out possible unreliable tenants. If you are not able to rent an apartment, you may have to room with a friend or relative until your credit improves. Employers may also request credit scores and histories of their potential applicants as a measure of personal responsibility. A spell of bad luck can fuel a vicious cycle that may prevent you from getting a job that pays enough for you to pay off your debt. Do what you can to push forward anyway and find a job that can be the foundation of putting the bankruptcy behind you. Click play to learn all about buying a house after bankruptcy. Pay your bills. It is imperative that you stay current on all of your monthly bills and other payments so that your post-bankruptcy credit record stays clean. There's absolutely no room for even the tiniest amount of backsliding in this regard. This means that you must be extremely watchful of every expenditure so that your expenses don't build beyond what you can afford to cover. Keep a bank balance. Opening and maintaining a checking and or savings account is also necessary. Having a history of charged, off bank accounts could hinder your ability to open a new checking account. The good news is that many banks offer second chance programs for people in this situation. Keeping a positive balance in all accounts at all times will show employers and creditors that you now have a reliable cash flow. Start to rebuild your credit. During bankruptcy, it's important to start to build up what got torn down. To rebuild your credit, you may need to obtain a credit card. Using it wisely will demonstrate to lenders that you can manage your money and are determined to slowly rebuild your flawed credit history. If you find yourself racking up debt again, you should stop using your card immediately and start a repayment plan. If necessary, use a debit card or prepaid credit card until you can pay off your regular card. Keep in mind that the interest rate on any card for which you are eligible will likely be higher than on the average credit card. Find help for car loans and mortgages. When the time comes to buy something larger with debt, such as a car or house, you may need to have another party, such as your parents, co-sign the loan. Without this, you may not be able to obtain financing at all. With it, you may be able to get something resembling decent terms on your loan, depending on the credit score of the cosigner. If credit is not available, you may simply have to wait until you can pay for a car with cash or consider a personal loan from your relatives and or friends. Also, an issue if you're buying a car. After declaring bankruptcy, you may find that insurance companies are reluctant or unwilling to insure you if your past credit history puts you in what insurers consider a high-risk pool. There are companies that will provide car insurance for you, charging more, but you still need it to drive. The bottom line. Although the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act, BAPPA of 2005, made it more difficult for Americans to declare bankruptcy, the need to take this step continues. As the pandemic unfolds, there will likely be more individuals and families going through bankruptcy. 3. Using your post-bankruptcy income and credit wisely is the key to rebuilding your rating and standing on your own two financial feet again. If you can prove to lenders and employers that your post-bankruptcy life is in order, then this obstacle too will pass. Remember, Mark Twain, Walt Disney, Elton John, and Henry Ford all went on to have prosperous futures. And if they could put their bankruptcy behind them, so can you.